Russian President Putin has ordered the denunciation of the Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe. Let me remind you that Russia suspended the treaty in 2007 and has not been a de facto party to it since 2015. The funny thing here is not even that Russia did not comply with this treaty anyway, and now they just decided to make up an information pretext. The quota for Russia under this treaty was 6,400 tanks, 11,480 armored vehicles, 6,415 artillery systems, 3,450 aircraft and 890 helicopters. And now let's look at the leaked Pentagon documents, and more precisely the part about enemy tanks. The data is as of February 28, 2023. There were a total of 3,028 tanks. Ukrainians destroyed 2,048. As of now, there are 419 involved in Ukraine, and another 561 tanks are garrisoned in Russia. That is, more than 2 months ago the Russian Federation had less than 1,000 combat-ready tanks under the limit of 6,400. Therefore, one can withdraw from the treaty as much as one wants, but this will not increase the number of tanks. For comparison, I will give the brief analysis from the analyst about the dynamics of the balance of forces of Russia and Ukraine, with a focus on the technical component. All numbers are rounded for simplicity. At the beginning of the war, Ukraine had 850 tanks on its balance sheet. In 14 months, Allies transferred a little over 600 more tanks. Another 80 Leopard 1 will arrive in June, and the armed forces of Ukraine also captured at least 540 Russian tanks. The Oryx community estimates Ukraine's losses at 500 tanks. Experts estimate that Oryx data covers about 80% of total losses. Thus, the total losses of the AFU could be 620 tanks, while the available number of tanks for a counterattack is about 1,400. Russia had 3,300 tanks on its books as of the 24th of February 2022. In 14 months, the Russian defense industry was able to upgrade or retrieve 600 tanks from storage. Oryx estimates Russian losses in 1,900 tanks. Thus, the total losses, taking into account the 20% that military experts say may be 2,400 units. Also, the analysts estimate that Russian army has 1,500 tanks ready for battle, including quite old tanks T-62 and T-55. Altogether we have practically parity, 1,400 Ukrainian tanks against 1,500 enemy tanks. But it is not quite clear how they considered the Russian trophy tanks, those that have already been able to restore the total amount and part went to spare parts. Altogether the Allies supplied 5,500 units of various armored vehicles to Ukraine. This is twice as much as Ukraine had at the beginning of the invasion. Yes, the amount of equipment in the Ukrainians increases, and the Russians inevitably falls, but this is still less when compared to the forces of the enemy. For example, the Russian army still has twice as many different armored vehicles, 12,000 units against 6,500 on the Ukrainian side. As for artillery system, the situation is better, and at the moment there are 3,000 units against 2,000 of Ukrainian army. The technical characteristics of the equipment, as well as the accuracy and range of high-precision ammunition make up for the lack of their number. Meanwhile, Great Britain will hand over or has already handed over Storm Shadow long-range missiles. Their role, changing the rules of the game, is obvious. Hence, the devastating consequences for the Russians of such a strengthening of the AFU are just around the corner. Crimean Bridge, how are you?